My name's Chris Hurdle. We're at Sungold Farm out in Forest Grove in a little community called Verboort. My grandparents bought this farm back in the 40s, and it was originally a dairy farm. We're standing right by Dairy Creek, not named after our dairy farm, but it was a lot of dairies that ran along here. But now we grow a lot of different things, including popcorn. So we're standing here in the old sweet corn patch. This is an area that was real special to me when I was a kid. It was a place where I could come out and see the nature and the wildlife of our farm, and an area that some people that I'm very grateful for, my parents and my grandparents especially. This was where they had their cows. This is where they pastured the cows during the summer. And because of those cows, because of all the work that my grandparents and my parents did, this is very fertile land. If you can imagine what cows produce besides milk, there's a lot of it that is natural fertilizer for our soil back here. Long time ago, I decided to be a farmer. Mainly because, well, that's what I grew up here with. I was very grateful that I grew up being a farmer and knowing where my food came from. It was in my blood. Like I said, my grandparents farmed here, my parents farmed here, and I hope that one day my own kids will farm here. When I was in school, I went to Peter Bosco Elementary there in Hillsboro, and I learned a lot of stuff that I could relate to my farming. The biggest thing was just the creativity that all my teachers instilled in me, especially with art. So as a young farmer, I was lucky that I grew up here, and that I know that when it starts to get cool in the fall, that the popcorn needs to be harvested. I know when it starts to get warm in the spring that I better start getting some of those seeds planted so that I can harvest them in the fall. But new young farmers, that is something that you'll need to learn yourself, and be lucky to spend some time on a farm and go through a season, and boy, just be patient and learn as much as you can about farming and about the season changes, and be patient with Mother Nature. And you've got popcorn from the cob. This is what we'll do next with this, is we'll take it back and store it and dry. This is already dried and ready to pop. And then as we need it for market, we will bag it up into 1 pound and 3 pound bags and take it to market every weekend. So I was, as a youngster, part of my 4-H group. I was not only a member, I was eventually a leader. I was a superintendent at the fair. But one of my favorite groups that I was a part of was the 4-H gardening group. My mom was the leader when I was a kid, and I had about a half-acre garden, which was a pretty big garden when I was a kid. And my sister had the flower garden, and I had the vegetable garden. Now, when I was in 4-H gardening, I didn't grow popcorn, but I loved to grow zucchini. I had champion tomatoes and cucumbers and green beans, and it was a great experience to take my prize-winning tomatoes and giant pumpkins to the fair and compete with the other kids there, and hopefully take home a blue ribbon. And at the end of the day, have a pretty good meal from what I grew in my own garden with these 2 hands. So we have 7 different kinds of popcorn here at Sungold Farm. There are many more different kinds of popcorn out there, but I found 7 that I personally adore. But they're all unique in their own little way. My favorite is still, this is called Robust, and it is yellow popping corn that It's kind of like what you get in a grocery store, but it's nothing like what you get in a grocery store. This was on a cob less than a couple of weeks ago. Grocery store popcorn, maybe a couple of years ago. So what that means for you and me is that it is so much tastier than that grocery store popcorn. It is sweet and it's nutty without any extra flavoring having put on it. Although I like a little butter on mine too.